in the uttermost parts of the sea. Even if I make my bed in hell, you are there. And I came to find out that was true. That I made my bed in hell in a number of ways, in a number of places. And I always found that God was there if I was willing to acknowledge that He was there. One thing that changed in my life that the Marine Corps has a way of doing was change my focus from me out. All right, it was no longer about me. You were part of something else, something bigger. And you know, when you're 17 years old and full of whatever you're full of, you're rough and tough and can't get enough and all that stuff. I was going to save the world. You know, I'm a United States Marine. I'm going to protect my country. And they drill into you the idea of service. It's not about you. It's about something bigger. And the fact that you guys are in church, I can say this without offending anybody, but in essence, for a military unit to function, it functions better if the men have some sort of idea of salvation. And that was explained to me, and John, you can probably relate to this, you know, from your military career. If you got two guys in a hole and they got to get up and go forward, who's going to be more apt to go forward? The one who knows where he's going or the one who has doubts? All right, so there's an aspect to that, and they didn't really promote religion, but they made it available, and I'm thankful for that. They also promoted the idea of service, and I was in the Marine Corps through the times of Beirut. Lost a lot of Marines there, lost a lot of friends there. Panama, Grenada, and then after I was off of active duty, got called up for the first Gulf War. So I came to understand the idea of sacrifice, that people I knew for a cause greater than them were willing to sacrifice themselves. And that's huge. That's a lesson that I think can only be learned by having those personal aspects. We realize that, and I hear on the radio and the TV all the time, you know, pray for our troops, think about this, think about that. But I don't think you ever really make that connection until you know the guy, and you know his heart, and you know his mind, and you know that he was willing to stand where he stood and give up all that he had. So when the time came to come out of the Corps, I did my time. I became a police officer. I felt like that I had this innate desire to serve. So I went from trying to serve the world and serve the country to what I thought was a more personal, one-to-one sort of aspect of service. I was a police officer in Metro Atlanta, and long story short, saw a lot of friends that gave their lives for people they didn't know, people that they had no idea who they were, but they were called, and they stood between the good guy and the bad guy and gave all they had in order to protect the good guy. And as a police officer, you become a little bit jaundiced. There's a big us versus them mentality. If you're not wearing a badge, you're the bad guy, and you sort of have to have that mentality. Become really cynical about the world, and I decided that people suck, you know, more or less. That most people, if they knew the character and the quality of the people who had sacrificed for them, these people would realize that they were undeserving of that sacrifice from these good people. And again, it's that personal aspect, that one-to-one thing. Knowing that 10 minutes before, I had pulled up car to car, talked to my friend, he gets a call, he goes on his way, I go on mine, and he never comes back from that call. Carried too many coffins, listened to too many bagpipes playing Amazing Grace over the hill in the North Georgia mountains. But I realized that what that real personal service and that real personal commitment meant in terms of service and sacrifice to individuals. I still had that jaundiced sort of an idea about what people were like. Long story, kind of fast forward a little bit to get things moving. ended up taking an early retirement and moved down here in 1999. In the spring of 2000, and this is where the testimony part comes in. I guess it's kind of like a sort of a building sort of a deal. In the spring of 2000, Dave Hanson was the preacher. I went up to communion, and there was almost like one of those an epiphany sort of a moment. Time slows down, and I heard Dave say to me, just as clear as the same thing he'd said 100 times to me before, the body of Christ broken for you. That you hit me that time. The blood shed for you. And I know you've seen it in a movie where, you know, everything's like, and it just all comes to a halt and you're just having these things. That was a moment for me. I came to realize truly what Christ had done. And I came to realize all those things that God had been preparing me to deal with. It was a slow process. Basically, I realized that like I just told you, that people weren't worth saving, yet he did it anyway. That I wasn't worth saving, yet he did it anyway. And he did that for me. Not for the people standing around me, but me. And that's one of those, I was somewhere, now that I know a little bit more, I was somewhere between Charles Wesley's strangely warming, or John Wesley's strangely warming of the heart, and then Isaiah's woe is me, I am ruined. All right? Where Isaiah had a glimpse of God, and he just realized how poor a creature he was. And I came to that point. And it really shook me, but I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what that meant in terms of what do I do.